Welcome to Kevin and Brian's Horror Drive-In Theater Podcast, where each week we cover the latest horror news, shorts, and 2 creature feature reviews. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brian.
This week, after the news, we'll cover the old drive-in classic Darkness Falls, followed by the discussion of the short film The Whistle, 1 and 2, and our modern horror feature film Hereditary. There's someone lurking around in the shadows at the edge of the lot, and is that a machete he's holding? Better lock your car doors. Turn up the volume. Here we go.
And this week's news. First up, we have a Maine newspaper that horrified the best-selling author Stephen King by dropping its local book review coverage, used his complaint to boost digital subscriptions.
This is actually kind of funny, and it ended up being a win-win sort of for everybody. The Portland Press decided that they weren't going to do reviews of local people anymore. And since he's a local person and local reviews helped him start, and he's a big fan of little authors, and he was appalled that they stopped doing this and told them, this is awful that you've done this. And so they say, well, okay, we'll do reviews again if 100 of Stephen King's supporters will subscribe digitally to the paper. And they almost immediately got 100 of his fans to
Good thing
subscribe.
they didn't ask for 1,000.
They
could have done that too.
I bet they could have, yeah. So now they're doing it again, and it was just kind of a kerfluffle between the two of them. So sort of a win-win. They got more subscriptions, and they're still doing the local reviews, and Stephen King weighed in. I imagine he's got a lot of local influence.
I imagine he's got a lot of all kinds of influence everywhere.
Or that sort of thing, yeah.
Wow, that's kind of dirty.
Well, yeah, a little bit. Maybe they planned the whole thing all along. Yeah.
Well, up next, we have a new Walking Dead teaser trailer. Walking Dead will be returning on the 10th of February, and this one gives more hints about the Talking Dead, otherwise known as the Whisperers, and their part in the second half of Season 9. There are going to be 2 leaders, Samantha Morton from Minority Report, and Beta, who is Ryan Hurst from the Bates Motel series, and other things. So, what do you think about these Whisperers?
I think it's a cool way to go.
The talking zombies.
The Talking Dead, yeah. It's another way to go, and I think it'll be very interesting. Because we need it to be interesting again, because it's been kind of the same thing for a while.
I think this year of The Walking Dead is better than it's been since probably the very first year.
Mm-hmm.
It was really crappy for like 8 straight years, and it's getting pretty good again.
Samantha Morton is great.
She was good in Minority Report and a lot of other things.
Code 46, science fiction movie. That was an awesome movie.
Yeah. Can't wait to hear what the zombies have to say.
In a whisper.
Where are they?
Yes, they don't belong here. Kill them all.
Of course, people who've read the comics know what they are already, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, they gave it away at the closer of the season break.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait for it to come back before we talk about that. Third, we have the first international trailer for a movie called The Hole in the Ground. And this is an Irish horror film that shows in Ireland starting March 1st. But this has no U.S. release date set yet.
It's coming, and it looks good. It looks creepy, very suspenseful.
So what's The Hole in the Ground all about that you can tell?
There is, of course, a big hole in the ground.
I would never have guessed.
Yes. Something about a kid who disappears in the woods and he comes back, and it seems to his caretaker that maybe it's not the kid anymore, that it's something taking his form. Some sort of changeling.
From The Hole in the Ground?
Yeah, yes.
Be careful where you dig.
Mm-hmm. But check out the trailer for yourself and see what you think about it.
Yep, got a link in the show notes for the trailer.
It's one coming probably in 2019 in the U.S.
Next up, at Hollywood's 24th Annual Critics' Choice Awards, January 13th, 2019, just last night, The Quiet Place took the prize in the science fiction horror category, beating out Halloween, Annihilation, Hereditary, and Suspiria. It's also the best rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Well,
I've seen Hereditary.
I've seen Hereditary. I saw the original Suspiria. I have not seen the remake yet.
The preview looked very interesting.
We should get that on here for the show pretty soon.
We should. Annihilation looked cool.
Yeah.
Halloween,
and
another remake of Halloween. Yeah.
But The Quiet Place was very good, I thought.
Yeah, it was.
Had a couple of good, really cringe-worthy scenes in it.
Mm-hmm.
The nail.
Ooh.
But yeah, if you haven't got a chance to see The Quiet Place, be sure to see The Quiet Place. It's very good.
And now it's an award-winning movie. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is coming to comics again.
Well, Buffy the Vampire Slayer had a long-running comic series through Dark Horse for many, many years, but that shut down. They stopped doing that.
The licensing now belongs to a company called Boom, with an exclamation mark.
Boom Comics. But this is a whole new comic version by a new artist, obviously at a new publisher, and this is going to be coming out next week on January 23rd for the first issue. And this is going to be a reboot or reimagining of the story from the beginning.
That is how it sounds, yeah, from
Now,
the very beginning all over again.
Is this related to the new series that is supposedly going to be coming up?
The cover art looked like the original Buffy.
The same old people.
Yeah, it didn't show the other characters. It just showed her.
Which makes sense. The new series
hasn't
done anything yet, so they really probably don't even know what they're doing at this point.
And I'm assuming they'll take, some different directions with the story, not do the exact same thing. Could be very interesting.
Well, the original comic series just continued off where the end of the series left and had all new adventures.
Mm-hmm.
This, I assume, would do the same thing, unless it starts at a different time period.
It sounded like it's going to start from the very beginning.
Oh, a whole reboot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see in a week or two.
Yes, we will.
For our drive-in special this week, we've got the 2003 movie, Darkness Falls.
Starring Chaney Clay, Emma Caulfield, and Lee Cormie.
All the big names.
Well, Emma Caulfield has done a lot of stuff.
She was in Buffy for a few years.
She was, so she's got more than one horror credit.
I don't remember when Buffy ended. Did she leave the series for this? Because I remember she wasn't in it very much toward the end.
Chaney Clay is not in very many things because he died not long after this movie. He died young at only 34.
Was it In the Dark with the Tooth Fairy?
I theorize that the Tooth Fairy got him. He died in 2007, something sleep-related, so it did happen at night.
For real?
Yeah, for real, yeah.
Okay, Buffy the Vampire Slayer ended in 2003. This was made in 2003. So there probably was some overlap there.
Yep, there would have been.
Okay, so this is, believe it or not, based on a true story.
Well,
For real.
inspired by actual events.
Well, okay.
I don't think the vengeance ghost part is quite true.
Well, the real historical part of this is Matilda Dixon was an old woman living in
Port Fairy.
In the movie, it's called Darkness Falls is the name of the town. But in real life, it was what?
Port Fairy.
Port Fairy in Australia.
This is in the United States,
Yes.
a fictitious town called Darkness Falls.
They've changed a few facts. Well, anyway, this old woman, Matilda, gave local children money for their teeth, which earned her the nickname the Tooth Fairy. Well, there was a fire one night, and she got burned up pretty bad, and always wore a porcelain mask to cover the burns. Could that be any creepier?
And then she anonymously would leave gifts for the children on their doorstep in exchange for their teeth, and it was a little bit creepy. Well, then a couple of kids disappeared from the town.
And guess who got
One thing
blamed?
led to another. Yeah. The mob formed and they hung her. And as they hung her, or soon after they hung her, the two kids appeared and said, we were just playing a trick.
Sort of like Freddy Krueger if he'd been innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the movie takes that from that point, which is supposedly based on a real thing.
As she died, she cursed the town.
Well, she comes back as a vengeful spirit in Darkness Falls.
So whenever a child gets old enough to lose their last baby tooth
She comes for them.
and does more than give them a quarter.
She can't stand the light. So if they're in complete darkness, they're in trouble.
So the initial part of the story takes place 12 years before the rest of it, and it involves this little kid named Kyle who loses a tooth, like we just said, and the tooth fairy comes in while he's sleeping. Famous last words is from his mother, "There's no one else in this house but us." And then the tooth fairy kills her violently. Unfortunately, there is no evidence of what happened, and the police arrest Kyle for it.
But he's only a kid, so he gets institutionalized and foster cared and sent off. And
12 years
12
later,
years later, his school, his childhood girlfriend is grown up with a baby brother who is having night terrors and says that he's seeing the tooth fairy at night.
he can't sleep for more than 10 minutes at a time,
Can't
and
stand
he's
to be in
been
the dark.
hospitalized for it.
And so Caitlin thinks of calling Kyle and say, how did you deal with it? How did you get over it?
The
Well,
story that Michael, the brother, and Kyle said are very similar, so she connects the two and wants to know how Kyle fixed the problem.
he didn't. He's
Yeah.
still nightmarish about it. He lives in Las Vegas. He's never in the dark, and he's still scared all the time at night.
But Kyle decides to help out, and he travels to Darkness Falls to visit Michael.
Back to his town.
And we see that Michael's been trying to get over it all these years. And he's kind of in denial over what happened, but he knows it was real. And
Kyle's trying to get over it.
Yeah.
But he sees Michael's drawings that look just like what he saw.
And he knows it's all true. They're connected.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while he's there, he meets Larry, a jerk from high school who is now a lawyer.
Who
And-
insists they go out on a drink for
Why,
a
I've
drink.
never met a more pushy drunk.
Let's go out for a drink. No,
I don't
drink.
drink.
No, just one drink won't kill you. So then they're at the bar, a nice shadowy, creepy bar, where there's darkness all in the corners, and Kyle is all jumpy.
And the old school bully from high school comes up and he starts picking on Kyle. Kyle is very nonviolent because he's on lots of antipsychotics and just a nice guy, so he refuses to fight and walks out into the parking lot. The bully, of course, doesn't put up with that, jumps on him, and they both roll down the hill into the deep forest.
And I thought this movie did a really nice job with darkness and light and how much darkness they could get away with. And it was dark, but you could still see clearly. The visibility was very good.
The whole point of the movie is you have to stay in the light, because any darkness would bring the tooth fairy.
So they could have a flashlight and car headlights, and
But-
you'd be in the light, but it's dark out there.
In order to have any story or any danger, they had to be in the dark most of the time, and it was a good balance.
Yeah, it was.
You could see, but not too well.
Good use of blue light, pools of light, flashes of lightning. There's a lightning storm later. Thought it was really well done as far as the direction of the use of light in it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Kyle and the bully Ray are down in the forest fighting, and Kyle gets up, runs away, and leaves Ray the bully down there, who is promptly killed by the tooth fairy.
Well,
Of course, at this point, the police start searching for Ray, and they find his dead body and arrest Kyle. Because who else you going to arrest but the new guy in town?
logically, that would be the case.
The new guy in town who's taking antipsychotics and has a history of murder. Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So they lock him up for a little while. Larry gets him released, and they go off, and Kyle wants to go to the hospital to help Michael some more.
The doctor, meanwhile, has decided to treat Michael by putting him in a thing called a sensory deprivation tank, which is dark and it's going to turn out all the lights and force Michael, the little boy, to face his fear of the dark by being in the dark.
So basically, if you've got a fear of spiders, they put you in a big box of spiders, or if you're afraid of rats, they put a bunch of rats in with you. I think this is how this is supposed to work.
I don't think that's the generally accepted medical practice, but it's probably
Aversion
been
therapy.
done.
Well, they do a kind of a thing where gradually, with some phobias, they will
Mm-hmm.
do that. But This was, yeah, we'll just put him in complete darkness and he'll get over it.
But anyway, Kyle gets there just before all the lights go out, and they pull Michael out of the machine, which is the strangest looking deprivation tank I've ever seen. It looked an
Looks a
awful
lot
lot
like
like
an
an
MRI
MRI.
machine.
Yeah, I don't know why they couldn't find a real sensory machine, a tank for that. But okay.
But anyway, the power goes out in the town. The Matilda attacks the police while Kyle's there.
Kills all the police except for one deputy.
She can't be in more than one place at a time, too.
Just one ghost in one place.
So she was, at the police station, and then she disappears from there, and like, oh, she's going to the hospital after Michael.
She got there very fast too for a ghost that can't drive.
Yeah, she flies very fast.
So now the ghost attacks everyone in the hospital, and there's a whole lot of staying in the light drama.
And they get picked off. You
One
don't have
by
to be
one.
don't have to be the fastest, just don't be the slowest.
Don't be an extra, don't be a nurse, don't be a doctor. You got to be one of the heroic characters of the story.
Who fortunately make it to the end.
And no one else does.
Spoilers.
Okay, so the survivors of the hospital all decide we're going to drive out into this isolated old lighthouse.
Oh, and they do drive because the last cop shows up.
In a car, yeah.
And the doctor, the one surviving doctor, has the best line because he's like, well, let's just keep driving. She
What
can't
could
get us if
possibly happen?
We're safe in the car. And just then she bashes through the side window and sucks him right out. And
No more
gets him.
doctor.
Yeah, best moment. We're safe in the car. No, you're not.
So they get to the lighthouse and they pour gas in the generator and head up to the tower and throw the switch, and it doesn't work. So for the next 15 minutes, there's lots of running up and down the stairs, screaming, panicking, trying to get the machine working.
Using a glow light and fading lanterns.
And it gets darker and darker and
She's
darker.
closing in.
Finally, though, they find the switch that will turn on the light, and only the little boy can fit through the gears to get to it. He crawls through, grunting and screaming that he can't make it, but at last, at the very last second, he flips the switch, and the brightest light you ever saw fills up the room, trapping the Tooth Fairy and making her burst into flame. She's gone forever.
Yep.
But then she
the
comes
problem
back.
is that a lighthouse is a rotating beam, and the dark side of the bulb, it wasn't a full illumination.
She attacks again because she's not really dead. And this time Kyle fights with her. He's had enough. He's not going to take it anymore. And he tears her mask off, breaking it on the floor. This time when the light cycles around and hits her in the face, she bursts into flame.
Well, it was also because he set his sleeve on fire and hit her with hit her with his flaming arm.
Combination of removing the mask and being set on fire, she burns and explodes, and it's really all over.
A happy ending for the three.
Or is it?
I think so.
And there's a final scene as this little boy loses his tooth, and nothing happens. Everything's all right. The end.
Did you like it?
I've seen it before. This is my second viewing, and I think I liked it better the first time.
I liked it a lot still.
It moves fast. It's very straightforward in what happens.
Lots of action.
It's a
lots
simple
of
story.
gotchas, suspense, jump scares. It's good.
I think the creature was very well done.
Yes.
It's an old woman in a mask, but it's got this whole sort of angel of death appearance about it. Comes down from the sky, hides up in high places, and pulls you away.
And you gradually see her more and more through the movie.
Until, of course, the final mask reveal.
Mm-hmm. She's ugly.
Well, there's only one problem with this movie that I find totally unrealistic, and everything else I believed.
The emergency lights?
Flashlights and emergency lights last longer than that.
Yes. These were emergency lights, like the kind that come on when the power goes out, and they were only lasting like a few minutes.
15 minutes or so.
And they would turn on a flashlight, and it would
Hospital
fail.
safety lights. Flashlights that you turn on, get one brief flash, and then they stop working.
And lanterns, kerosene lanterns that should last for hours, were like lasting 15 minutes. It made for good drama.
I guess the whole story wouldn't work if the lights stayed on all night.
It wouldn't have, no. So other than that, we believed everything in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to help that out, on the DVD at least, there are some special features. There's a featurette about Matilda, the real Matilda Dixon in Australia, and they interview several modern day locals that tell the story there.
There's a pretty good making of documentary,
Yeah.
too, how they made the movie, interviewing the actors and so forth.
Always good to watch those special features.
I think there's a commentary track, too.
There is, yeah.
Yes.
Didn't listen to it, but there is one.
That's one of the good things about DVDs versus, just buying it.
Digital downloads. Yeah, it doesn't have all the stuff that the DVD does.
Kind of on the short side. It moves very quick. It's only 86 minutes total.
Yep.
They milked that out. The closing credits, we didn't actually watch them this time or time it, but the trivia said that's 11 minutes long. So the actual movie's
Without
like 75.
the extended long credits, it would not have been long enough to get theatrical release.
So they did this super long montage music.
So this is
special
about as
effects.
short a legitimate movie as you can get.
But I thought it was very entertaining.
It was very good.
This
yes.
was my third viewing, and I still liked it.
third viewing.
Third viewing.
Did it end differently?
No, ended the same.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, another little kid who was decent, and you kind of rooted for.
Okay, what did you think of the acting overall? The main characters. You liked the kid.
I did, and I liked the two main characters. I liked them all.
Okay.
All the acting. I think it's kind of sad that
There was no great drama in this one, though.
Emma Caulfield got to do a lot of things, and the guy who is the cop, he has gone on to do a ton of things too. Cheney Clay didn't get a chance to do a lot more after this.
Yeah, the main star did not live much long after this.
But I think he could have. He was very good. They were all good.
Okay, well, that's Darkness Falls. Pick it up. We'll have a link in the show notes. Of course, there's an affiliate link there, so if you want to support the show, pick one of those up. And
We recommend it highly.
we do, yeah, very good. And now we talk about a short film.
2 for 1.
Yeah, actually, this time it's a little double feature.
The Whistle and The Whistle Chapter 2.
Yeah, both available on YouTube. We'll have links in the show notes. The original Whistle was about 6 minutes long. The Whistle 2 is 11 something, so it's a little bit longer. Overall, what you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Kind of middle of the line. They clearly put a lot of work into them, and they did a good job with cinematography.
Visually, it looks great. They both look really good.
Not much of a story, though. Not enough of a story to satisfy me.
First one, a guy
Basically, he's getting followed and chased.
walking down the street, and all the lights go out, and he hears this weird whistle. He gets creeped out, runs home, opens the door, goes inside, locks the door, and guess what?
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
And then it's pretty much over.
it's creepy and atmospheric.
It looks
and-
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
At 6
scary.
minutes, you
Yeah.
can't expect a whole lot of plot.
Not a lot, but some.
There was a plot. Things
There,
happened.
okay, there was a plot. Yeah,
The guy ran in, hid in the
point-
house, and things happened.
point A to point B. Yeah, and then The Whistle 2. No related character,
No related characters.
but there's people missing. Again, kind of not enough story to it.
Guy's car breaks down. He stands outside, notices some missing people posters, finds an old watch.
Something's chasing him, and there seems to be maybe a bit of a time travel loop. He seems to make it back home, and then all of a sudden he's back in the car.
Well, maybe that was time. Maybe since there's a pocket watch involved, maybe it was time travel. I kind of thought he maybe dozed off and dreamed that part.
I thought it was a time travel thing because the watch. There's a strange thing with a pocket watch.
Anyway, he
It's
finds the
intriguing.
pocket watch.
It's interesting.
He rushes home in a hurry. He looks at the pocket watch, and then he's back in the car for some reason. He gets out of the car, and
The
he
whistler
starts
is
hearing the whistle.
the whistler is there,
Yeah.
and there's missing people.
So anyway, both of them look really good. It looks like they had quite a bit of extra special effects in the second one than they did in the first one.
2018.
Yep.
New. They're both new.
From Bopple Entertainment. Give them both a watch. It's only 15 minutes of your time. If you hate them, you're not out much. But they're both pretty well done. See what you think.
Yep, very watchable.
2-for-1 short special.
Absolutely.
And for our modern movie this time, we have just a few minutes ago, finished watching Hereditary on Amazon Prime.
A 2018 film.
2 hours, 10 minutes, and feels every bit of it.
And they almost could have made it 3 hours, according to some information I read. They cut it down, and thank goodness they did.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they cut out the parts that made sense.
No, I think it was more talking that they cut out, more family drama. There was a lot of psychological drama in it, a lot of family stuff going on.
Well, this movie stars Toni Collette as the mother, Gabriel Byrne as the father, Alex Wolff as son Peter, and introducing Millie Shapiro as Charlie. The family of 4 living in a really huge old house.
Beautiful house.
Very nice house. And we don't know what the father does. The 2 kids are students, obviously. And the mother is a professional dollhouse designer.
Well, it's more of a art, miniatures. Very detailed miniatures. The miniatures are really cool in this.
That she makes and sells in a gallery.
It's not just toy dollhouses. It's a lot more involved than that.
Yeah, it's very, very realistic, very, very artistic. Somebody went to a lot of trouble making those sets.
Yeah, for real.
And before we get into it too much, the movie does look really good.
Yeah, it does. Filmed really well.
The sets in the house are very good. The little miniatures, I won't say dollhouses, they're miniatures. They look really good.
The director wanted to do practical effects as much as possible, and it shows. Those are really top notch.
And there's some good camera effects and camera work throughout. They're very, very well made.
But then there's the story.
It starts out simple enough. Grandma is dead. First thing we see on the screen is Grandma's obituary printed right up there on the screen before the titles or anything.
No spoilers there. That's right off the bat.
Yeah. And at the funeral, again, this is a difficult one, but we're going to try to keep the spoilers to a minimum. But all the good stuff happens well into the movie, so we may hit on a few things. So at the grandmother's funeral, the mother, Annie, says, "My mother was a secretive and private woman." You think that was true?
I think it was.
I think she definitely had
She
some
had
secrets.
a lot of secrets, as you'll find out as you watch the movie.
But no one's really all that upset about dear old dead Grandma. It seems like nobody really liked her, and she was very, very sickly and kind of grumpy and almost evil there at the end before she died. So they don't miss her too much. They go to the funeral, and that's the end of that. Grandma's gone. Next day, Charlie, the little girl, very strange looking little girl.
She is. They played up. Well, she's got the real actress Millie. She has an offbeat beauty. It's kind of a wide face. I mean, she's not ugly, but they played it up in the movie and made her look more off and stranger than she does in real life.
Yeah, I don't think it's prosthetics or anything. She's
A
just
little
a
bit.
very distinctive looking girl.
I think they did some bags under the eyes and some little bit of prosthetic and makeup work.
There was definitely some later on.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, she goes to school and she cuts off the head of a dead bird. They're all sitting in class and a bird crashes into the window and dies. Then at recess, she goes out with her scissors and cuts off the head of the bird.
She's an odd girl.
Very, very odd. And there's really no explanation given for that other than she's just a weird kid.
Yeah, it seems like she's just off, mentally distant, unconnected, not clear if it's a severe autism or some mental issues, but she's definitely not normal.
Yeah. And then while they're talking that evening, Steve, the husband, gets a phone call from the cemetery. Grandma's grave has been desecrated. We don't know what that means at the point, but that's just weird that someone would do that. And then what?
How do we describe what happens without any spoilers?
Yeah. Well, weird stuff starts happening, and really the whole point of the movie is dealing with grief and loss and blame and guilt.
And suffering and
It's
keeping
all very
secrets.
psychological, all very depressing.
And it seems that maybe through a lot of the movie, you're left wondering, is this really happening? Is it just a lot of bad dreams and bad feelings and manifestations of guilt and so forth?
The guilt and the blame is played up to the point where weird things start happening, and you can't tell if it's just all in their heads or not.
So that made the film interesting. Even though it was slow, I think that really helped because you were wondering. And as it goes on, you gradually become more and more sure of whether it's real or not.
Yeah, like 2 hours into it.
Yeah, it took a while.
I made a note. 1 hour and 50 minutes into it is the first time we see anything that's definitely,
Clearly.
clearly supernatural.
Yeah.
But the rest of it plays like ordinary people meets the exorcist with a little bit of Rosemary's Baby involved.
I was going to throw in some Rosemary's Baby and
Yeah.
mention that. I got a vibe of that. Yeah.
But the bulk of the movie feels like we're exploring mental issues in this very special episode.
Very long special episode. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody saw ordinary people and decided to take all the blame and the guilt from that and make a horror movie around it, is my guess.
And I think they won overall.
Okay, so there are a couple of really memorable scenes in here. There's a, for those of you who have seen it, we're
No
not going to give
spoilers.
too much away,
No
but there's a
spoilers.
scene in the car on the way home from a party,
Yes.
which, is it inappropriate that I laughed for good 5 minutes after that happened?
It's very inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a scene revolving around a losing the loved one support group where the mother explains how her life is going.
And boy, does she unload on that group.
She wins top prize.
She unloads at the dinner table.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's some real pent up emotions get pent up and then released.
If you've ever complained about a movie where no one talks and no one speaks their mind, this ain't that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really have a few good blowouts. As far as interesting performances go, the mother is suitably crazy.
I thought all the performances were really good.
Yeah. Gabriel Byrne is the biggest actor in the movie, and he is totally underused.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought so. Underutilized for what he's capable of.
He has a few scenes, but they're not great scenes, and he doesn't have a lot to do, and he's just sort of there through most of the movie.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame.
Ann Dowd, if you're familiar with her from The Leftovers or
The Handmaid's Tale.
The Handmaid's Tale, she's really good.
She's always good.
It's a fairly small role, but it's very important.
It is. She's awesome.
And she's awesome. She's been awesome in everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't suppose I don't suppose it's really appropriate that she's my favorite character in The Handmaid's Tale, is it?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But she is. She's totally cool in that.
Yes, she is. Aunt Lydia.
Yeah. Okay, so and then we get about an hour and 50 minutes into it, and the supernatural takes over.
But
what was your thought about that?
Well, it's not clear even then exactly what's happening. It helped that I read stuff about it, but if I hadn't read things about it, I might be wondering, what?
What the hell did we just see?
What just happened? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of out of the blue, where did that come from, pulled it out of their butt kind of resolution.
And there's a little bit of exposition at the very end that helped.
There are some hints given here and there throughout the movie, but
it's not clear on what exactly is happening.
And it's not really totally clear why it happened at the end.
So after you see the movie, you might want to look online and read about it and read reviews and analyses of it.
Some of the reviews I've read said it made a lot more sense after a second watching.
It would, yeah.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen then. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. The last 15 minutes felt wrong somehow.
Like, where did they come from?
Yeah.
How did they get in there? Wait, what?
That almost 3-hour movie may have made more sense than what we saw.
Possibly, yeah.
Very dramatic, very good performances from everyone. Very weak ending.
There was a lot of talk in the trivia and the details about making of the movie. They put a lot into the music, and the guy worked really hard on the music, put a lot of time and effort into it, and I kept forgetting to notice the music, and I really didn't very much.
And that's kind of a mark of a good score for a movie, that you really don't notice it. It sets the mood, it sets the feel of the movie, but it shouldn't stand out to the point where you notice it.
And it didn't.
And I never noticed the music.
And I was even trying to notice it, or planned ahead to notice it.
Oh, what good score. No, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. You know the most useless piece of trivia that I read?
What's that?
Millie Shapiro, who plays Charlie, the little girl, her favorite number is 7.
Oh, well, that makes all that explains everything.
Talk about some minutia about an actor.
Sometimes when you get people that are new actors, like this young girl who's never done anything before, they
Just
kind
a
of
couple
stretch for
minor
anything.
things. Yeah, it was kind of scraping, I think.
There are a couple of very effective jump scares. There's one time something happened with Peter the son that made me jump pretty good.
But overall, it was not heavy on the jump scares.
No,
It was
not
more
really.
more tense and psychological.
And I think that's why the one or two that were there worked so well, because there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah, they were effective.
Was it even really what you'd call a scary movie?
I
The
was
first
chilling,
2 hours worth? It's just,
chilling,
yeah,
unsettling.
weird, creepy.
Yeah,
Okay, so if you like, I'm not going to say psychological dramas exactly, but it kind of is.
it's not a slasher film. Not even a typical ghost film. It's kind of hard to, yeah, kind of hard to categorize. Definitely a horror movie,
Definitely a horror movie.
and definitely pretty darn good.
Definitely give you something to think about for a few days.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I give it a thumbs up, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again, I think.
I'll give it a 6 of 10 and say I probably wouldn't want to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know how it ends, the rest is just too painful to sit through.
Another thing I was going to say about the miniatures, one of the shots that impressed me the most, she's got a studio full of miniatures. Some of the miniatures are based on her real life and the real house that they're actually in. And the camera shows this room full of the little, their dollhouse size things, zooms in, and that becomes Peter's real bedroom.
That was the very first scene of the movie, and I made a note of the dollhouse effect. Yeah, it's really neat. It starts out as a dollhouse, and then
The miniatures
it sort of segues into reality.
and somebody built those. Those were real little miniatures. Somebody built that detail, and it was the exact room that was the set. It was impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of interesting scenes in this. A
Yeah.
lot of good visuals.
Overall, definitely a thumbs up.
Okay, and a thumbs up for me. So that is Hereditary 2018. Watch that on Amazon Prime anytime, or if you don't have Prime, we'll link to a DVD in the show notes. And it looks like the sun is starting to come up, so we're going to have to get going. The drive-in is closing down for the weekend. Stop in during the week at www.horrorbulletin.com for news and horror updates, to comment on this podcast, or to contact us.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian, and we'd love to hear from you this week. Send us an email, drop us a note, give us some feedback somewhere, and pick up your snacks before you leave the drive-in. Drive back in next weekend.
See ya.
See ya.